Rise was going to be purely a business conference for fitness professionals. Because let's face it, there's plenty of events you can go to learn how to squat better deadlift, kettlebell, all that stuff. That does not get you more clients. That does not help you get more leads. And there was no event out there solely focused on helping the studio owner, the gym owner tackle those problems when it comes to business. So how do you go from the amazing trainer to the business operator? That became the new mission of Rise. And then obviously the messages of, hey, I'm quitting the industry because I'm not making money. Hey, I'm leaving this industry and going back to school. Because like those things, like those hurt, man. I heard those messages. I'm like, wow, like we are not doing our job as an industry leader, helping these gym owners and studio owners create successful businesses. We got to do something about that. And that became the new mission of Rise, which is where helping 10,000 gym owners and fitness professionals have a successful business.
Hey, what's up, everybody? That was Khaled El-Masri, this episode's guest on the podcast. And this episode is brought to you by Profit Marketing Solutions. If you need new clients, if you need more revenue, if you need more leads, and let's face it, who doesn't in today's competitive fitness business environment, then Profit Marketing Solutions is for you because you need marketing, and they are the best. It's also brought to you by Cryo Releaser. If you're tired of products on the market that don't hit those trigger spots that you want, that don't offer a cold therapy that's designed right into the product to help decrease inflammation in those trigger points in soft tissue areas, then Cryo Releaser is what you're looking for. It's also brought to you by Offering Tree. If you need a new website, if you need the ability to have clients scheduled through your website, purchase offers through your website, just drive more traffic, more members, more leads, more revenue through your website, then Offering Tree is for you. And if you go to trainergym.net and click on the link at the top of the page, then you will get exclusive discounts that you can only get through this podcast. So go to trainergym.net, click on the link. Perfect examples with Offering Tree. You can get a new website for as little as $5.50 a month. So give our sponsors some love. Go check them out. Now, Khaled El-Masri. He started Rise Conference, which is a fitness business conference for fitness professionals, because there's a lot of fitness professionals out there, like he said, that don't know how to run a business. So they're great trainers, but they don't know how to run a business. So their business goes under. And then they leave the industry and they become something else because they can't make it in the fitness business arena. So he created Rise Fitness Business Conference to help trainers and people who want to become fitness business owners to acquire the skill set that they need to become successful fitness business owners. So I hope you enjoy this episode with Khaled El-Masri. Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to Masters in Fitness Business Podcast, where you get to stand on the shoulders of giants. And today I have a giant coming to you from the great state of Texas. I have Khaled El-Masri. And did I say that right, Khaled?
You did, man. Congrats. Nice job.
Awesome. Awesome. And he is running the Rise conference that's going to be held in Dallas this November. And we're going to talk about all kinds of good stuff and basically helping fitness businesses succeed. Khaled has an ambitious goal of helping 10,000 trainers in the fitness industry. So we'll see where he is with that goal as we get into it. Welcome to the show, Khaled.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited. I've been excited for this podcast for a while now. So tell me, give us a little bit of background on how you got into the fitness industry, because I've been doing a little research on you, what I call, online or Facebook stalking. And we met at the Succeed conference out in Irvine, which is how we connected. But you were a gym manager. Apparently you worked for the NorCal Fitness Summit. And then from that, you spun it off to Rise. And now you do that full time. Can you give us walk us along that path?
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, I mean, I started my journey just like everyone else. I had a trainer and saw amazing results back in high school, actually, when I was getting ready in between my junior and senior year in high school, I was working with a trainer, and I just, like I said, just got amazing results, speed, strength, power, all that. And that for me kind of is what catapulted me into fitness and wanting to explore this industry and just really be a part of it. And so, started at the front desk, checking people in, meeting a lot of the members, meeting a lot of the trainers, and just kind of started picking everybody's brain. And I actually wanted to get into physical therapy. That was definitely that was the route I was headed. Just seeing, like my father got hurt at work, fell off of a ladder, messed up his shoulder pretty bad, messed up his lower back pretty bad. And just seeing the impact physical therapy had on him as far as just giving him back his life and just giving him a sense of purpose back in life. And because of that treatment and some of the exercises they were doing, I was like, man, like I want to help people do that. So I went down the route of physical therapy and then moved. I grew up in a small town in California, San Luis Obispo, right on the beach. If anyone doesn't know where it's at, it's about 2 hours north of Santa Barbara. So it's definitely a gorgeous little spot, but it's a small town. So moved to San Francisco, and that's where I joined Fitness 19 was the first club I actually started out training as. And within about a year, got promoted to fitness director. At that point, sales for me comes very easy. I have no problem talking to people and making those instant connections. And so sales was what got me to that role of fitness director. And kind of to sum it all together, I've been in the industry for 12 years. I've ran clubs that were doing $4 million a year in training, ran clubs that had about 70 to 80 trainers across multiple clubs. Was developing trainers. I've actually, during the span of 12 years, I've worked with close to about 500 trainers from different companies I've been involved in. The amount of staff I've been able to work with, all at the corporate level. Like my background's really the big box gym and really just understanding that space. And in that space, I started to get some interest on like what's happening in this independent trainer, gym owner, studio owner space and the entrepreneur space. So I left the big box for a while, went on my own, was an independent trainer for about 2 years. Just wanted to try it, man. Like I always heard about it, wanted to experience it and be able to speak to it. And then the big box world came calling back and jumped back on that. And then recently just stepped away so I can really focus on just building Rise and growing Rise. You mentioned NorCal Fitness Summit. That's what Rise was prior. It used to be called NorCal Fitness Summit. And back in 2013. It was a Facebook post. Hey, I'm looking to start an event here in San Francisco, looking for speakers. And that's realistically how the first event got started.
Oh, nice. So, and that was 2013. So you've been putting on a conference every year for the last 6 years?
Yep. Every year.
Nice.
For 6 years, yeah.
Now, how many, just to give us an idea of the growth, how many attendees did you have at the first NorCal Fitness Summit back in 2013? And how many did you have at Rise this past year in 2018?
So you see the smile, right? We started with 30 people, 30 attendees in a gym at the very first event. And mind you, I had no list. I didn't know email marketing. I didn't know the importance of building a list. Literally, it was zero list, zero audience, and we ended up having 30 at our first event. Last year, 6 years later, we had about 250 at a DoubleTree Hilton in San Jose. So to show you just kind of the span of those 6 years, it's been an amazing journey. Yeah,
I imagine you're developing your skill set to run a conference has grown dramatically in those 6 years.
Oh, of course, man. And actually, I got this. It's really, for me, I realized last year I was its own bottleneck where I was doing a lot of the work. And so this year I hired an event planner. I have somebody helping me with sponsorships so I can really just focus on the actual event and really create an awesome experience there.
Yeah, and that's kind of what a lot of the listeners of this podcast run into, where they become the bottleneck in their business because they're wearing so many hats and doing so many things. And I'm a firm believer that when you multitask, for me, the definition of multitask is doing a lot of things shitty. instead of doing one thing really well.
Yep.
So I'm a big believer in bringing on a team and work and moving together forward as a team, because that's when the big cruise ships really start to move. So what drives you to help trainers and people in the studio market? Where did that mission of Rise come from?
Yeah, I mean, the very first one, like when NorCal started, before I rebranded it, it was more so from a space of, hey, like, why there were so many trainers in the Bay Area in San Francisco? Why are we traveling to go to other events, right? Like, why do we go to LA? Why do we go to the East Coast? Why can't we have a fitness industry represented brand in the Bay Area and draw in a lot of those California trainers? And so that was the first. Like, ideally, it came from a place of not having to shut your studio down, not having to reschedule clients, and not having to be away from family for 3-4 days. That was kind of like the first initial mission, was like, hey, we're going to create this event to solve for these problems, because I know as I've attended events, those were some of my problems. Was I'm away for 3 days, I'm not training clients, I'm not making money, I'm away from family. And so that was the first mission, was like, there's nothing in San Francisco, so let's just make one in San Francisco. And that was kind of the first few years. That was ideally the mission. And then I kind of realized, like, hey, there's not a whole lot of implementation growth happening at this event, yet alone other events. So the focus shifted. So instead of I didn't want it to be just like every other event in the industry. We know those events and we know what those events do. So I made the decision back in about 2015, 16, Rise was going to be purely a business conference for fitness professionals. Because let's face it, there's plenty of events you can go to learn how to squat better deadlift, kettlebell, all that stuff. That does not get you more clients. That does not help you get more leads. And there was no event out there solely focused on helping the studio owner, the gym owner, tackle those problems when it comes to business. So how do you go from the amazing trainer to the business operator? That became the new mission of Rise. And then obviously the messages of, hey, I'm quitting the industry because I'm not making money. Hey, I'm leaving this industry and going back to school. Because like those things, like those hurt, man. I heard those messages. I'm like, wow, like we are not doing our job as an industry leader, helping these gym owners and studio owners create successful businesses. We got to do something about that. And that became the new mission of Rise, which is where helping 10,000 gym owners and fitness professionals have a successul business.
And just out of curiosity, where are you with that goal? How do you track that goal, 10,000?
So right now we are basically we're about 1,500. So if I look at the event leading up the last 6 years, so far we've helped 1,500 gym owners and personal trainers.
And just out of curiosity, each year, how many people that attend Rise are first-time attendees?
We get last year about 80% were first-time attendees.
No shit. Okay,
yeah,
good. That's awesome.
Like you said, as I've gotten better at the this is why messaging is so important, and knowing your audience is so important. As I've gotten better at those two, I've been able to really hone in on who it is that I want to impact. And as I've gotten, as the skill set of marketing and Facebook ads and all that has gotten better, I've been able to better target and get the message in front of the right person. So, we get about 80% new attendees. This year, I'm expecting even more because we're in a new city, a new location. I'm only really focusing on Dallas, Texas, and Texas as a whole. There's enough gym owners and trainers in Texas to fill up the event. So that's kind of where I've taken, marketing dollars are all honed in on that.
Okay, gotcha. Now, because that's the same reason I started this podcast, because, going back to the E-Myth, and I say this all the time on the show because it's true. It's like you get trainers, AKA a technician, who thinks, hey, I'm a great trainer. I can do this better than wherever I am right now. And they decide to open up the studio, but they open up the studio through the lens of a trainer, thinking, I'm a great trainer. People love me. I got a loyal following. I'm going to have the the dopest equipment, and all of this stuff. And they spend all of their money in the wrong areas. They spend all of their money on like apparel and equipment and things like that. And they don't even consider marketing, branding, systems, business systems, and all that skill sets, all those skill sets that you need to be a successful entrepreneur or business person. So it's really important for the success of their business to take them from that skill set of the technician to the skill set of the entrepreneur. So with that, and so that's why I think this podcast lines up perfectly with Rise, because that's the reason I started. I mean, I was guilty of that. I was a trainer for 20 some odd years before I started my business. And then I was lucky enough to run into Thomas Plummer and Secret Trainer Society. And I think we know a lot of the same people, because I think you were in Todd Durkin's mastermind, right? Yeah. So we probably know a lot of the same people, but that mastermind group helped me climb that ramp to improve my skill set as a business owner. And then that's why I started this podcast, to scratch my own itch, because I knew I wasn't alone. And there's a lot of trainers in that same boat, as I'm sure you can attest to. So, I mean, do you find that to be true when you talk to people that are attending the Rise conference?
100%. The first question when I'm on the stage is, how many of you in the audience feel like you're on an island all by yourself, or you feel like you're alone, or you feel like nobody understands you or gets you? Everybody, literally like 90% of the audience raises their hand. I'm like, you are now not alone. Like, I purposely started asking that question, and it's, you look around the room and man, you just see their faces, like a smile comes on the face, because they're like, wow, I'm in a community where I'm not alone. And I'm a part of something that's bigger than just fitness. Because here's the thing, like, people don't, like, the speakers help deliver the amazing experience, the education, but it's the attendance and it's the attendees that deliver like the true impact of an event, is those people that are sitting in the audience with you. And so, yeah, man, I definitely 100% will realize a lot of people think they're on their own, or I can't figure it out, or I don't know what I'm doing. So the whole thing right now is, I really believe this industry, fitness industry, is like the wild, wild west right now. If you look at everything that's happening, of who to follow for leads, or who to do for your marketing, or how you should sell, and all that. So our theme for this year is the wild, wild west. And it's like, hey, business right now, and has nothing to do with Texas, because, wild, wild west. But it's just the industry as a whole. It's all over the place. And so how do we block out the noise and really look at really look at the right content and the right things and the right strategies that we need to be doing to help move the business forward? Yeah,
and I agree with you 100%. It's the wild, wild west. For one, I think a lot of people, a lot of trainers, both male and female, when they get into the industry, they have a little bit of an ego, right? So it's hard for them to think collaboratively. They always think competitively. And if you're thinking competitively, then everybody's holding one another back, versus thinking collaboratively, where everybody can push each other forward. And that's why I started the podcast. That's why I like mastermind groups. And that's why I'm a big proponent of your Rise conference and other conferences, fitness businesses conferences like that, because I think it's important for this industry, because it is the wild, wild west. It's a lot of, like, for lack of a better term, mom and pop shops on every corner, who are, competing for their piece of the pie. And if you want to rise above the noise, so to speak, pun intended on that one, if you want to rise above the noise, then you have to seek out people who are just like you. And that's the other thing, is that when you open a business and you talk to somebody who's never run a business or owned a business or opened a business, and you come to them with their solutions, they'll try to help you with, answering some of your questions or some of your problems with solutions that really don't fit, because they just don't get it. And when you find people who are in the same industry, facing the same issues as you, and they get it, man, that's like nirvana. I couldn't agree with you more. I remember the first time I went to my first STS meeting, and I was talking to these people. I was like, oh my God, this is what I've been looking for. This is what I need to take my business to the next level, and my skill set, my business skill set to the next level. Because it's true, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if I can find 5 high functioning, high performing fitness business people to, bounce ideas off of, then I'm only going to get better. So when you talk about the attendees, I'm a big believer in the community and team. So do you have any activities at the Rise conference that involves the attendees or involves that community to enable that community to come together?
We do. For me, it all starts from the seating. Everybody's seated in almost a round table type atmosphere. And if you've read the study and research on the round seating, it creates engagement and conversation because everyone's seated next to each other. So that's one kind of aspect to help create some of that. And then obviously we have different like networking events, time for them to connect outside of when the conference is happening. I host a dinner on, I believe, Friday night. There's a big networking event dinner. Everyone gets together and talks. And so the cool thing about Rise is the speakers are there the entire weekend. And that's one of the cool things I've always heard about from feedback is the speakers were there. They didn't just speak and leave. They connected with the audience. And so it's a combination of finding the right speakers, the atmosphere that's created inside the room that's honing in on the way they're sitting, the way they're engaging with each other, the networking events, the workbook that I'm putting together for this year's event. All that goes into somebody walking away from this thing and they're like, damn, like this was not like any other event I went to. Like I need to come back every year.
That's great. So let's dig into some of the things that you may run into either at Rise or when you're working with people who are making that leap from technician to entrepreneur in the fitness business. So what are some of the top 3 mistakes that you see people in this industry make?
I think the big one is when they come into it, they're focused on the wrong thing. Meaning instead of when I'm starting out, like for me, it's about like, let's get you clients. Like let's focus on sales. Let's get you some revenue in the business. Some of them walk in starting out thinking, okay, I want to go online. I want to create a brand. I need to create this. It's like, hold on, like you have no revenue coming into your business. So let's do what you do best right now and bring you in some clients and get some money coming in. And then let's talk marketing, branding, all the online space and all that. I think that's the big one I always hear is just they want to do so much before they even figure out, okay, what's priority, what's important. I think the second one is just not like their systems, having their systems in place. And the very first thing I tell them is start writing every single thing down from the minute you unlock the door, like what happens next and what happens after that. And so even with your sales process, what's their systems like with their lead process? From the time a lead comes in the door till they're in a sale, like what's that process look like? And start writing that down. A lot of them want to scale and already even thinking of opening up another location, and yet they have no systems, no SOPs. And it's like, start with that. And then the messaging, right? Like, and I think you said it, it's with a mom and pop gym on every corner. They sound like they sound just like that gym on that corner. So how do you get your messaging right so that it's different than the person right up the street who's charging less than you? Because all things being equal, if there's no uniqueness about you, I'm going to go to the cheapest trainer.
Yeah, I find that to be true as well. I think they definitely concentrate at least their money and their focus on the wrong thing, and they need to get people in the door. They need to get bodies in the door. They need to get money coming in the door. And then also they think, you ask them and they say, yeah, I got a system. It's me. But then when they leave, or if they bring on another trainer, then they can't translate that system. It's not scaled to grow beyond them. And so then they become the bottleneck in the business, like we talked about before. And then differentiating so you don't become a commodity. It's like, what's the difference? You do personal training, they do personal training, and they're cheaper than you. So why should I go to you? And the difference between being a commodity and offering a product that people seek you out for. I think that's the key. So let's dig into that a little bit. So when we talk about differentiation, what's some advice that you would give people in the business about differentiating themselves from their competition?
I think for me right now, the biggest one is the experience you provide. And I think that moving forward is going to be the difference maker with a lot of these studios, a lot of these mom and pop gyms, is how is the experience working with you different than, because we're all personal trainers. At the end of the day, they're all going to put us in a bucket of, you are a personal trainer. So how do I differentiate is the experience. So from the time somebody comes in, and what's that first 7 days like, 14 days like, 30 days like, what's it smell like? What's it sound like? What's it feel like? Do you do thank you cards? You know, what's your onboarding process like? Like all of that, I think, ties into that bucket of experience. The second piece is, can you deliver results? Like, are you, like, the other thing I think that's going to help you stand out is be the best at delivering results. And the tied with that is delivering results to your ideal market or your ideal audience. So really figuring out who it is that you want to work with. Like for me, it's women over who need to lose 15 pounds or more, or men who need to lose 50 pounds or more. And why I chose that is because I was that guy who needed to lose 75 pounds or more. And so I can speak to it very well, and I know their pain. I know what they're going through. I mean, I used to run by the mirror after I took a shower because I did not want to look at myself in the mirror. Like, I know that market very well, so I know how to speak to it. So everything I talk about is around that ideal market. So I think it's really the experience, being the best at delivering results, and speaking to the ideal audience that you want to work with.
Yeah, and identifying that audience, like you said, because a lot of people is like, well, who's your audience? Well, it's everybody. Well, if it's everybody, then you're going to go out of business because not everybody is your ideal client. So like you said, to your strengths. I know when I opened my club Catalyst, I wanted to do everything. I wanted to be a one-stop shop. I wanted to do spinning. I wanted to do large group. I wanted to do small group. But where we are, there's a ton of places that do large group. And a ton of places that do spinning. And to be quite honest, they did it a lot better than us. And so we stopped and we concentrated on a small group because that was our bread and butter. That's what we did better than anybody else. And so we just doubled down on that, and we eliminated the large group. We got a couple of Peloton bikes to let them handle the spinning if they wanted to come in for a spin. And then we eventually added back in large group, but in smaller ratios. We limited to 10 because that's kind of our deal, is personalized attention versus going into a large group where you have 30, 40 people and there's one instructor and there's no way they can watch you. And so knowing your audience and diving deep into that niche, I think is key. And I want to jump on one thing. So if you've got a one-person show, basically a person, they say they started their own business, but really they just started their own job. So if they want to start to grow their business beyond just themselves, who do you recommend they hire first? Ideally, I would recommend hiring a trainer first, like hiring somebody that can take up some of that time. Because here's the thing, a lot of them are so busy training that they can't afford not to bring on like an admin person or a marketing person. So if it was me and I want to focus on growing my business, I would bring in a part-time trainer so I can just offload some of those clients over to that trainer to free up some time for me to really go back and focus on the business. But I think in order to do that, you got to have your systems in place, right? Because if I'm going to bring somebody in, I need to make sure they are training and programming the way that I want them to do it, where it's not a free-for-all, because that becomes such a loose-ended brand and a loose-ended training business that all of a sudden you're just now bringing on people and there's no systematic approach to your training. Yeah, I agree with that. You definitely have to have the system in place, and then you have to be patient when you hire that new trainer, because a lot of people, when they hire a new trainer, they don't have a system. They say, I want you to train this way. And then they tell them once, and then they give them a client, then they say, okay, you're not training them the way I told you. And then they jump in and start micromanaging instead of actually spending the time training and managing the trainer and teaching them the correct way and teaching them their system. So eventually they can let it go and let the business grow. But I also know with me, the most impactful hire that I've ever had was when I hired somebody to work the front desk. Yeah. To answer phones and deal with incoming messages, emails, all the admin work that I fucking hate. To be honest with you, I love training. I don't want to do all of that stuff. No. And when I hired the front desk people, it singularly was the biggest impact on my business. So where do you think that falls in line in that process of growing your business?
I think it's, and to your point, when I was running some of these big box gyms, a lot of the trainers we brought on were front desk people because they knew a lot about the brand. They answered the phones. They handled a lot of the back end work, and they also knew the members very well because they interacted with them on a daily basis. So I definitely think if you're going to hire a trainer or bring on a trainer, and you have somebody at the front desk that is interested in personal training or moving up in the company, I would start there first, or maybe it's not hiring a trainer right away. It's maybe giving that person an additional, maybe they go from part-time to full-time, and you offload some of your admin to them so that you can focus on bringing on a trainer to offload some clients so that you can focus on the business.
Yeah, I agree. And then to me, it's because prior to hiring the front desk, I would be on the floor training clients, or have one of my trainers on the floor training clients. And then a new prospective client would come in, and I'll be like, okay, we're with clients. I'll be right with you. Here, fill this information out. We'll get right back to you. And that lead is gone, versus having somebody there to answer the phone, or then when they walk in, hey, how you doing? Welcome to Catalyst. Can I help you? Can I answer your questions? And then giving them a script, a system to kind of go through so that we can plug them into that lead, trial, new member funnel. So for me, that was singularly the biggest impact. And surprisingly, it impacted our revenue in a positive way much more than I thought, because we were able to, we had somebody whose job it was to run the systems, so that was a big impact. Do you find that to be true in other businesses that you work with?
I think, yeah, absolutely. I think because that front desk team member is so member and client interfacing that they become the almost like the mayor of the club or the studio, because they know everybody. They know birthdays. They know what happened over the weekend. And so for me, like, they're so friendly. Like, they are that first person a new lead or new prospect meets. So why not invest the time as the owner and the leader of the business in developing them, since you're going to be busy training right now because you can't bring on another trainer yet. Why not teach them your systems and your sales systems and what happens when a prospect walks in? Get them doing that so that you're not missing leads. 100%. The thing is, though, if you ask a fit pro starting out, like, what's your, what happens when a lead walks in? I don't know. Well, they just sit down and we talk to them. So it's like mapping that piece out first so that I can go give it to a front desk person or team member, and then having them follow the script and system.
Yeah, I agree. Just so they can run in the background while you do what you do well and stay in your lane, and let them do what you're paying them to do. So those are all great points as far as like the common mistakes. So let's talk about the 3 common traits that you see in successful fitness business people.
The big one is just, I think it's self-awareness, man. Like, I think even just in general, it's self-awareness for them to say, okay, I'm really good here. I'm not really good here. I need to go ask for help and figure out how to get good at the business side of being a business owner or a fitness business owner. So it's self-awareness. I think the second one is it's grit, man. Like, this industry is very rough and it can be very hard, especially when you're starting out and you don't have clients and you got to pay bills and you have kids, like the grit and perseverance to say, hey, I'm going to give this everything I have and I'm going to push through because I know this is what I love to do and this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And yeah, it's going to be hard and it's going to suck and you're going to get turned down, but it's the grit and perseverance to push through. You know, I see it now, man. Like one of our attendees from Rise last year, she just got voted best personal trainer in her area. And this was a person that came to the event last year, sat in the audience, took notes, applied what she took back to the business. And a year later, you know, not even a year later, you know, yeah, about a year later, she got voted best personal trainer in her area. So like for me, like trust the process and understand, like you said, patience. I think it's self-awareness, grit and perseverance, and patience. Like I think those are the big three that I think make a really good, successful fitness business owner.
Yeah, I agree. You know, and it's a funny thing about the trainer that came to the conference and then a year later got voted best personal trainer in her area. She's the same personal trainer that she was a year ago, right? The only thing that changed was her business knowledge and application to marketing systems. So she was able to create more of an awareness over around her skill set as a trainer, and that got her voted as the best personal trainer in her area. So there's a lot of trainers. I had a guy on the show, and he said, you know, the thing that pisses him off more is when he sees people who aren't as good as trainers as him making more money than him. And the reason they do that is because they're better at marketing. They're better at sales, you know, and that's what it comes down to. And that's that mental shift that trainers need to make when they come into the fitness business. What do you find that is helpful? And you talked about self-awareness, you know, becoming self-aware of what I'm good at, what I'm not. What are some of the tools and tricks that you use or that you have at Rise that help people do that?
We do, the big one we do is breakout sessions. You know, that's always been, and why we do the breakout sessions is ideally you just heard 3-4 speakers talk about various topics. And now the breakout session now gives you that opportunity to have some one-on-one interaction with other attendees, but two, I can take that information and be like, okay, I just heard Scott talk about Facebook ads. And now in this breakout session, I am going to start working on my Facebook ads. And now Scott's in the room helping me with my Facebook ads. So creating that dynamic between the speaker, the other attendees, and a workbook to help you implement. That's kind of how I've been able to differentiate Rise from everybody else. Everybody else is just it's a PowerPoint, a talk for an hour, you get a break, and then another speaker. It's like, no, we need implementation so that I can leave the event on Sunday, go back to work on Monday. I have the blueprints now created of like, okay, what's that first domino I need to tip over? And it might be, okay, I got to work on my Facebook ad. Cool. Once that's done, what's that next domino? So being able to do that and being able to curate that in an environment of 23 speakers and 500 attendees, you don't find that anywhere else.
Got it. And then I agree with you on resilience. And I think part of that comes with understanding resilience. And it's my favorite story of being a business owner is like, sometimes I want to sell the business and just leave or burn it down. And other times I just can't wait to like go to work. And that's usually all happens before I even set foot out the door to go into the gym, you know, that kind of ups and downs. So, but you only get that when you talk to other fitness business owners and they're like, yeah, you know, that it resonates, right? So that comes from that community. And then the patience, and that comes from, I find, mentoring. So who were your biggest mentors like coming up and once you got into the conference business?
For me, it was Todd Durkin. I remember when I was in his mastermind for 5 years. And so with me, I was leading these teams and we had big budgets, man. Like our expectation was 100, 150,000 a month. $1 million to $4 million a year training, just training revenue, not even membership revenue. So I needed help with being a better leader because I was managing by title. You know, for me, it was like, I'm your manager, so you have to do what I say. So Todd, man, being in that mastermind, being around other fit pros. What's funny is I was really the only fit pro in the big box space. So I got perspective on, okay, what's happening in this independent trainer studio owner space, that what are some of the things we can start implementing in the big box space? Or for me, just being around other people and seeing some of their challenges really helped me put the pieces together for when I did start Rise. All that came from being in that mastermind group. So it started with Todd, and then it went to, I kind of went on my own for a while. Like there wasn't really anyone doing the event space, really focusing on building events. So I just started learning from your Gary Vaynerchuk's on marketing, your Grant Cardone's on sales, your Nicholas Kuzmich on Facebook, your Mitch Miller on marketing and copywriting. So I just started figuring out who are the best at what they do and started learning from that. And so whether it was investing in a course or like last year, I flew to Puerto Rico for 3 days to be in an event on marketing and copywriting. Nothing fitness related, but helping me get better at my messaging and helping me get better at my copy. And I was in a space of 75 other marketers that, man, some of the work they do and the way they think just blew my mind. I'm like, holy crap, like this is so cool. But that's me, man. Like I'm self-aware, knowing like education and continuing education, that for me is one of my core values. So I see it as an investment and here's the thing, man, that pisses me off about trainers is they see it as a cost. Like this is going to cost me $300 in a weekend in Dallas, Texas. It's like, yeah, but that $300, the connections you're going to make and the knowledge you're going to get is not, you can't even put a price on it.
Yeah, I agree. And it's just my business coach says that all the time. And then the guy that I talk to marketing all the time says that. It's like, you have to change the way you think about money, when you become a business owner. And that's part of climbing that curve of becoming an entrepreneur. Because when I first heard, you got to spend $3,000 a month on marketing, I'm like, what? Like $3,000 is a lot of money just out the door, just boom, gone. But then they explained to me, it's like, okay, so let's say you spend $3,000 a month on marketing, and let's say you get 5 clients from that. And those 5 clients are going to pay you $250 a month membership fee, and you have them for a year. So I don't know what that is, but let's say, let's round it up. Say it's $2,500 per client. If I get 5 clients, that's $7,500 worth of clients revenue from those clients for $3,000. Would you do that? Is that a good return on investment? Absolutely. So again, to your point, when you go spend money and time at these, conferences for marketing or business, if you don't use them, then yeah, it is pissing money away. But if you use them, man, you can really grow not only your business, yourself, develop yourself, but also your bottom line, your revenue. So important. So the other thing, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I want to just hit home, and I think you knew the lifetime value of your client. You know that if I sign up one client at at $500 a month and they stay with me for a year, that's going to result in X amount of dollars over the year. The thing is, and it just goes back to, we talked about systems. It's also about knowing your numbers. So it's also knowing, okay, when I'm marketing, I know if I'm spending $500 on a Facebook ad and I get one client, that one client's going to stay for me for 6 months. That's $3,000. I think $2,500 as an ROI. Most trainers, they don't see it that way. And so they see it as I'm spending $500, not realizing, yeah, but the 500 could turn into 5,000 because you do such a great job getting results and building an experience that they stay with you for a year. I'll spend $500 every day.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll spend as much money as I can on that campaign until it stops returning an investment like that. Absolutely. So the other question that I had for you is, you talked about when you were in Durkin's mastermind and the manager, you had to work on your leadership skills. what specifically did you have to work on and change, and how did you do that? Because I know for me, when I opened my business, you know, and again, I don't think I'm anything special, but I was like, this is my business and I'm going to run it the way I want. And I'm the boss, I'm the owner. So if I say something, you're going to do it and you're going to like it because I'm not going anywhere. And surprisingly, people don't want to work for a person like that. Right. So I had to, especially when you're hiring millennials. So I had to change my leadership style quite a bit and work on my leadership skills. So walk us through some of the changes that you had to make specifically and how you did it.
The big one that I had really was I had to discover what type of leader I was. So I did the whole DISC personality test, really specific around leadership. And so I came to realize I was an ID leader. So I'm very relationship based first, and then I'm very direct. But what was happening is at work, I was just being very direct. Like, I need you to go this, I need you to make more sales, make more phone calls. Why aren't you doing this? Like, you suck. Like, go do that. I had right. Like, I mean, I had to go back to really going back to like, who's the human that's sitting across from me? Let me develop that relationship with them. And not let everything be so about numbers. And really, like, because I didn't understand numbers were driven by behaviors. So I was just coaching on, why aren't you to your $5,000 goal? What are you going to do to get there? And for most of them, they had no idea. And so being in Todd in Mastermind and leading, you know, I fell in love with John Maxwell and all his books. I mean, I still have 4 or 5 of his books sitting on my desk, and really just understanding how to coach to behaviors and how to coach to what that person, like, what's important to them. Like, you know, I can sit here and say what's important to me, but it's not about me. So I had to change my style to be like, hey, what's important to you about being a trainer here? And how do we make those behaviors around that impact what you're making? And so that it made sense financially for them versus financially for the gym or the big box. A lot of them will always say, well, corporate just wants my money. Corporate doesn't, you know, all that corporate stuff. Like, how do we change some of that thinking? So I had to flip my coaching to be more of a co-coaching versus me just being that dictator of like, this is what I want you to do. This is why I want you to do it. And really more on, so what's important to them and how do we make it work in the space that they're training?
Yeah, that's great advice. And I like that. Numbers are driven by behaviors, because I know I'm guilty of looking at that the other way around. And I do find that to be true, because everybody has different motivations. Not everybody's motivated by money and numbers, which just to me just doesn't compute. But I will never understand that. But I understand, I'm capable of understanding that there are people like that out there and that you have to coach to them. So I want to wrap up. I want to respect your time and my time. So I always finish up with 3 questions. And it's really not a gotcha podcast, because it's really about educating the listeners. So in your time in the fitness industry, in the conference industry, what has been your most successful failure? And by that, I mean, what at the time seemed like a devastating loss that you weren't going to be able to recover from, but you took lessons from that were able to propel you to greater success down the road?
Man, it's a great question. You know, and I'm actually going through it right now. Is last year I took a huge risk, and you know, we moved the event from a conference center to a hotel. And if anyone doesn't know about the event world, there's a food and beverage minimum that sometimes comes with that hotel. And so we said, let's do it. This is gonna be our biggest event. And it didn't turn out that way. And I took a huge risk, which we all do as entrepreneurs, and I paid the price because now I owe the hotel some money and all that. And so, but that for me, the lessons learned there was, you know, it's good to be thinking down the road and just being very optimistic, but be realistic about that optimism. I think Pat Rigsby taught me that. We got on a phone call right after, and he was like, you were optimistic, that's awesome, but be realistic. And that's the thing, is take the risk and be optimistic, but make sure it's a a realistic risk, because otherwise you end up paying a price where, we started this year a little bit in the hole, but like the train continues, right? Like I'm not going to not host this event this year because last year was a shitty year and we lost 20 grand. Like that's not going to stop me from, like, the mission is still the mission and the purpose is still the purpose. And I still want to impact those trainers, so the event doesn't stop. Just like you, right? You still have your clients you want to impact, and you have your mission that you want, and that's not going to stop because you had a bad year. So that's my biggest failure and the biggest lesson learned from that.
Oh, nice. Okay, and then the other one is, if you were going to talk to somebody starting out in the fitness industry, what advice would you give them? And I think we kind of covered this, but see if you come up with any new points for this one.
Man, it's what advice would I give them? I think for me, it's really that first piece is really defining like what are they in the industry? What are they trying to do in the industry, right? Like I always want to start with their own backstory, because I think that helps me understand where they want to go. Because we can talk systems and processes and all that, but for me, like I want to know their story. So that's the first thing I would ask them is like, what are what's the impact you are trying to create in the fitness industry right now? And that for me, I think will align them to understand, hey, in order to do that, create that impact and to help all those people, here's what you're going to need to start thinking about and putting in place so that you can impact the lives that you want to impact.
That's a great answer. And that's a thread that I've found throughout this interview with you, is that kind of emotional connection, because we can talk numbers and systems all day, like you said, but unless you're able to impact and resonate with somebody on an emotional level, whether it's, from when you were talking about, the impact that PT had on your dad, to like when you were talking about your leadership style and getting emotionally connected to the people you're trying to lead, so that you can figure out what really makes them tick, to, like you said, understanding why people are getting into the fitness industry in the first place, that mission, that passion that drives them, and then using that to guide them on all the numbers and the system stuff. I really like that quite a bit. All right. And then the last one is, and we talked about it, self-development. I'm a big believer in self-development, self-awareness. I do a lot of it. And I don't think you can ever do too much of it. So where do you go to get your self-development? Be it podcasts, like the last 3 books that you read, all of those things.
Man, podcasts for me are like my go-to. So like Entree Leadership is one of my favorite podcasts. Like, yeah, I'm a huge fan of that one, just from a, still want to hone in on my leadership skills. Another one is Ed Milet Show. Like that's been a huge one with some of the guests he brings on. Perpetual Traffic from Digital Marketer is another good one, helping me just continue to understand what's happening in that Facebook space. Sales, Brad Lee. I don't know if you're familiar with Brad Lee. He's based out of Vegas, just came out with a sales course. So I'm taking that. It's funny, man, I've been doing sales for so long, but I'll buy a sales course. I'll read a sales book, The Art of Closing. Any of those, the Story brand, like that was a huge one as I was rebranding NorCal to Rise, reading Story brand by Donald Miller. That was a really good one to just help me understand the whole hero's journey and where Rise plays in that journey as that guide to help that Fit Pro get to that next level.
Nice. And all of those links, I'll put all those links in the show notes. And you're the second one to mention Ed Milet and Perpetual Traffic. So I definitely got to check those out. And the book links will be in the show notes as well. So I know you do some coaching, some business coaching. So you want to share with our listeners where in the world they can get in touch with you if they want to contact you about coaching, about questions, if they want to attend the Rise conference, all of those good things.
So if you're looking to get more info about Rise, the Rise conference, go to attendrise.com. We just made the first round of speaker announcements on Friday. We meaning me. So I just made the first round of speaker announcements on Friday, but there's some speakers on there. Facebook, just find me at Khaled Al Masri, or at Instagram, it's Khaled Al Masri 1. Reach out, send me a message. I'd love to interact with you.
Okay, awesome. And then when is the Rise Conference? When and where?
So it is November 8th, 9th, and 10th here in Dallas, Texas. So we're coming up on 6 months. So it's about to be game time for me to like just laser down on the conference. So yeah, November 8th, 9th, and 10th in Dallas, Texas.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, this has been great, Khaled. I'm glad you came on the show. Thank you for taking the time, because I know you're busy trying to put together the conference and get the speakers. So just out of curiosity, one last couple of questions, if you got a minute.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So how do you find speakers? Well, not even that. Like, who are some of your favorite speakers, and why are they your favorite speakers?
So I'm going to answer your first question, because I think that's a really important one to answer, because that's how I've also made Rise different. Is I just mentioned I went to Puerto Rico, attended Mitch Miller's event, and was blown away. So about a month or two later, I reached out to Mitch Miller and said, "Hey, I'm hosting an event here in Dallas. It's a business conference for fit pros, but a lot of them want to understand how to be better, write better copy, or just understand copy and marketing. Would you be open to speaking at my event?" So typically I go to an event, I listen to speakers, and I reach out to that speaker. If I look at, if there's the sales, there's those skills, right? Take the trainer out of the equation. There's certain business skills that we need to have to make sure we can run a successful business. So my job as the event host with Rise is to figure out, okay, it's marketing, it's sales, it's lead gen, it's experience, it's customer journey. Awesome. Who are the best? Who's the best speaker? Not fitness, because let's face it, some of the speakers in the fitness space are not the best at business. They're best at fitness and being like, let's just get that out there. So I find the best speaker on that skill set, and I ask them to come speak at Rise.
Okay, whether or not they're in the fitness industry or not, because business is business, right?
Business is business. And so if I look at the speaker lineup for this year, about 6 of the speakers are not even in the fitness industry, but they speak on certain skills as a business owner that you need to run a successful fitness business.
Nice. I like that. And that's a very important point to make, I think. So I'm gonna put you on the spot, because I know I looked at your speaker lineup, and there's quite a few speakers on there. So do you have any favorites? Are you allowed to say, can you say that politically correctly to tell us who your favorite speakers are and why?
There's some on there that, like, Jay Ferrugia's on there. I've heard Jay, actually, he's never spoken at Rise, so I'm excited for him to speak at Rise and it be his first event at my event. I also heard him speak at a different event, and I was just blown away about his experience, his knowledge, what he's done in the fitness space. Brett Bartholomew, I just read his book, Conscious Coaching. I'm also looking forward for him to speak. It's his first time at Rise as well. So honestly, man, there's some speakers on there where I get excited. They're all my favorites. A lot of them are friends, like AJ Roberts and the Joe Arcos and Jeff Sherman. Like, a lot of those are friends of mine that just over the years, the relationship has blossomed to now they're here speaking at the event. So I'm excited to hear all of them speak, but there's a couple on there where, like, Jay and Brett, Nicholas Kuzmich, I always love hearing Nicholas speak on Facebook ad creation. So those are some of my guys. And then the ladies, like, we've got 5 ladies speaking this year on whether it's Instagram, Pinterest, marketing. So I'm excited for them as well.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm looking forward to the conference. And again, thanks for coming on the podcast. And I would like to reserve the right to have you back on later on down the road as Rise continues to evolve and grow, as we all do, hopefully. So thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me on. Yes, I would be honored to come back on.
Yeah, and hopefully I'll see you around at other events too.
I will be there, my friend.
All right. Thanks, Khaled. Have a great day, man.
You too.
All righty. Bye.